Welcome back to another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba podcast. This is episode 66. It's a pleasure to have Coach Herting, Matt Herting. If you're from Fort Myers, you may know who he is. He's a longtime high school basketball coach. He is the inventor of the Inquisitive Mamba name. It's a pleasure to have you on tonight's show, Coach.
Joey, I'm so glad to be on. Like I said, I love your podcast, and when you asked me, I was really excited. In fact, I was out with Allie for Father's Day, my daughter, who graduated with you at Verot, and said, "Hey, I heard you on Joey's podcast." They were all really excited.
Yeah, so it's a long time coming. We've talked about this for quite some time now. And I thought about having you on for episode 70 because I wanted to do like a milestone type thing, even though we just hit 1,000 plays all time. But I was like, episode 66, something about this. So I'm excited. I'm ready to get this started. So I wanted to first address the elephant in the room with you. So many people ask me, where did the Inquisitive Mamba name come from? Till this day, I still ask myself. I get the inquisitive part because we were in health class and you were like, I'm going to give you the Inquisitive Mamba name because you ask so many damn questions, but I don't get the whole entire name. So explain to everybody what that means.
Well, in that era when I've known you from Hoopschool, I've known you from all this, I've known you a long time, and your family and your friends, of course, and you would ask a million questions. That's when Kobe was big, and he was the Black Mamba. Then you had the Ginger Mamba with Scalabrini, all that. So everybody's like a Mamba in the NBA, and you just asked me a million questions. So I was like, I started calling you the Inquisitive Mamba. It's kind of a joke, and it just kind of stuck. But I think it's good. I think it's good.
Yeah,
It's kind of a clutch name that I came up with.
I like it a lot. And so many people ask me, and I'm like, my high school basketball coach gave me this nickname. So till this
Yep.
day, I always say that. And now we basically took it and ran with it, and we're doing pretty good. And thanks to you, the nickname.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I coined you the Inquisitive Mamba.
You
and
did.
You were an inquisitive dude, and that was during the Mamba time period.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, in health class that day, it just stuck, and here we are. So it's like I said, it's a funny nickname, and so many people ask me about it. But so actually another thing we got to talk about here is congratulations to you. You're getting married on October 7th. So that's exciting news. So talk a little bit about
girl,
that.
Met her and got engaged after a couple months, but when you know, she lives in Cincinnati, and she was just down here for almost a month, and heading to South Dakota in a couple weeks. So I'm really excited. Like I said, greatest girl I've ever met.
Kind of doing like the hometown type thing. You're from South Dakota, Sioux Falls, and then she's from Cincinnati, Ohio. Is that correct?
Yeah, and she's born and bred, like deep roots. So we do the commuter thing for now, and it works out good because we're both busy. But she can work remotely some, and then I get breaks, some outside of basketball season where like Easter and spring break, I can go up there, and summer some. So it's been really good. She's awesome.
Have you had the famous Skyline Chili up in Cincinnati, Ohio?
It's funny you say that because there's that Skyline in the Sam's Plaza in Fort Myers.
Yes.
And I've never wanted to go. And about her fourth or fifth time now, and she's like, we have to go. She worked at Skyline in downtown Cincinnati as a high school kid. And we went, and she ordered for me and all that. And I liked it. I don't know if it's my favorite restaurant ever, but it was good. And so I've never eaten at the ones in Cincinnati. She lives right downtown, right by both stadiums. Bengal season ticket holder, walks to games. So I've been to a lot of restaurants and stuff there, but never Skyline. But here in Fort Myers, she dragged me to Skyline. It was pretty good.
What did you order, or what did she order for you when you went?
If I remember, it was a 3-way, which I think is like chili, cheese, and maybe onions or something. Yeah. I don't know. And then a couple of the small conies, which were delicious. I love those. I'm a chili dog guy way back. So those are really good too. But yeah, it was good.
Cincinnati people who do listen to this podcast, or friends of mine, like one of my Max Adams, he's family's from Cincinnati. I've been to Skyline Chili, and I'm not the biggest fan of it. So if they hear this and they get upset at me, I'm not the biggest Skyline Chili guy. It's just it's an acquired taste. I feel like it's something you got to get used to.
It's different, and as I've gotten older, I've started getting fat, which I'm narcissistic enough that bothers me. So I try not to eat too much bad food, although I eat out almost every meal. But try not to eat too bad. But I like put a bunch of that Skyline hot sauce on it, on those little hot dogs. It was good. And the spaghetti part with chili on it, I mean, the cheese and onions, how could you go wrong? So I put a bunch of that Skyline hot sauce. I don't know, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. So moving on to this part of the show, most people know you as, high school basketball coach, and you've been around the block for a long time. You're Verot's most winningest coach of all time, but that your journey didn't start at Verot. It started a really long time ago. So talk a little bit about that for people, who listen to this podcast for basketball and are really, big into basketball.
Yeah, I was always wanted to be a basketball coach. I grew up in a small town in rural South Dakota, just outside of Sioux Falls, as you mentioned. And my dad was a coach, and not much to do in those cold winter days or winter evenings or nights. Even I'd go there, and the gym was always kind of romanticized. You hear the real cold weather, the sneakers squeaking and the ball bouncing. And I always wanted to be a basketball coach. And then I took a job sight unseen. We didn't have much, and I took a job sight unseen in Harlingen, Texas, down on the Mexico border, South Texas, and loaded up my old Chevy Celebrity with a gym bag full of clothes and drove south. And sight unseen took a job in Harlingen, Texas, and volunteered my first year under this legendary coach Carl Owens. Had 850 some wins and plethora of coaching awards, Texas High School Hall of Fame coach, and worked for him for 4 years. Volunteered the first year, worked really hard. Then he made me his first assistant and all that. And I was down there, and then I took over Marine Military, which was an all-boys military prep boarding school at that time. They wanted to make it like Oak Hill West, and I took over. I was 26, and we had about 15 Division I kids in 3 years, and we played all over Vegas, all over Texas, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Laredo, all over the Rio Grande Valley, Corpus, and Louisiana, North Carolina, played at Oak Hill every year, in Virginia. And I did that for 3 years as the head coach there. And then me and my family moved to Fort Myers for the Verot job, found like a fish in water at Verot and in Fort Myers. I love it. Never leave it. Unless they get rid of me, which I guess could happen.
So I got a chance to do a deeper dive into your time when you were coaching in your younger years. At the age of 22, you moved over to the men's team as their top assistant, working closely with head coach Kevin Vandestreek. Now, this was at University of Sioux Falls. Is this correct?
Yeah. I played football there, was captain of the football team in 1990, played wide receiver, but I also played 2 years on the baseball team, played outfield, played right field, and 2 years I ran track, and then 2 years I played basketball. I got hurt in football, and I quit playing basketball, and I was like the 11th guy on the team. I'd come out after football and play a little scout team and travel around. It was fun. And I wanted to be a basketball coach. I wanted to stay involved. So, yeah, I did that. And then when I got out, I worked as an assistant with the women's program 1 year. Then the next year with the men's program with Kevin Vandestreek, who did a great job at Calvin College in Michigan, in Grand Rapids, and won a national title there. Went to a couple Final Fours, and was just a really big influence on my coaching career, and just a great guy.
When you say that, like with like the NBA now and college and high school, like how much do you think you really learned as a coach, like in your younger years to where you are now? Do you think like I owe a lot of my success to him, or just like do you think
Yeah, I do. What he really taught me was, one, he gave me a lot of trust when I was really young, and gave me a lot of responsibility. But also what I liked about him in this business, a lot of time your family's lost. And he was a good Christian dude. And he, made his family part of the team and all that. So that's one thing I've always done. Like when my kids were little, I drug them everywhere. I'd drag them to Atlanta, I'd drag them to games, to practice and all that. And I mean, I just, I didn't want to not have a family at the expense of my career. And I think that, that he really taught me that you could have both. You could drag those guys and bring them everywhere and have them be little, gym rats running around while you were working. And, and I think that was one thing he really taught me that was great.
When you were at Marine Military Academy, some of these numbers to me are you guys went 73-18, facing top teams all over the country, 12 states and 3 countries. 3 years at MMA, the Leathernecks faced over 60 Division I players. In your tenure there, they produced 10 NCAA Division I players and several other college players. So during your time there, are there any like notable names that people could
I
think
wouldn't
of? Or
say that notable, but at
remember?
that time, Conference USA was really Conference USA, like with Bob Huggins with Cincinnati and all that. And I
Yeah.
had a kid, David Wall, who's
Mhm.
dead now, rest his soul, but he was all Conference USA at Southern Miss, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Kid Lamont Sides went to Iowa State. Guy Adam Ndiaye, a great guy from Dakar, Senegal. He was defensive player year in the Big West one year at Cal Santa Barbara.
Mhm.
We just had a bunch of really good kids and really good players, but nobody that ended up like in the NBA. A lot of guys overseas or in South America. But we played all Oak Hill, Hargrave, Mount
Mhm.
Union, all those. Not Mount Union, Fork Union, all those kinds of schools, and it was fun. It was a learning experience that young. But I think you kind of learn by trial by fire, and you thrown into stuff like that, sink or swim, and that's how you really learn.
So when you finished at Marine Military Academy, you ended up at Verot, is that correct?
Yeah,
So when you got to Verot, how was the program like? I mean, it's totally different now, but how was it like
yeah, it's
then?
totally different now. Yeah, they hadn't had very winning seasons in a while, and I thought there was a big potential to have a camp there that
Yeah.
would be, somewhat subsidize my income to help with the pay. And the city of Palms was there. I thought that was intriguing, and I remember this, Joey. Like I took and I interviewed in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and then at Pensacola Catholic, and then Bishop Verot. I wasn't just necessarily looking for Catholic schools, but I wanted something like that.
Yeah.
And I went and interviewed, and I remember when I pulled into Fort Myers, I just kind of it was very stressful working a job like Marine Military, traveling around. It was so transient. It's like a JUCO kid. You'd have kids a year, they'd leave, and I really wanted something more structured. Although I love all those guys and the people at Marine Military were great, but I just by myself kind of traced the Gulf,
Yeah.
and going to interviews took like a week. Just I'm kind of a peace of mind kind of guy like that. And I'm very independent. I like doing stuff on my own. I remember pulling into Fort Myers and coming over the downtown bridge in the evening and not having any clue what it was like here, driving down McGregor, and you had all these people walking their dogs, and the sun was setting in the palm trees. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to live here. And got the job at Verot. They had over 100 applicants. I got the job and bought a place right off McGregor. And 25 years later, I'm sitting in the same house. So I love it. I would never leave.
I haven't looked back since. But so in 1999, you took over at Verot, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Wow. So some players that come to mind, I mean, names of, Ricky Doyle, Mason
Yeah, of course.
Taylor, the Wagners.
Reed
How
Baker played at Michigan.
Yeah, Reed Baker's another name too. How
Eddie
did
Murray.
you Eddie Murray's another one, yeah. How did you incorporate your style of play or your motto into the Verot culture? Like how did you put your imprint into Verot?
Well, I always kind of thought that like I was a little ahead of my time, but I was like, yeah, just put positionless basketball, just put your good guys out there. And
Yeah.
at that time, everything was like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I never really believed in that. And I'm lucky. I've had a bunch of really great families, really great kids.
Mhm.
Several administrations have been great and supportive and kind of let me do what I want, which I think that was the key. Them just letting me do it how I wanted and kind of seeing my vision, what I had, just leaving me alone. And there are a lot of people that helped out. Like Chris Beretta was huge.
Yeah.
Pops Coleman, who's back with me now, was big. Greg Coleman Jr., who is the our athletic director now, was huge. Gus Simmons, Ryan Scroatmore came back, Zach Ward, Scott Guttery was my assistant, Garrett Copeland was great, Dean Burrows was great. And I've had a lot of great people work for me. So it wasn't always just me. I think I was lucky enough to have people around me who were really, really good. And one thing I was smart enough to let them do, to let them work. And they were, just a huge part of it.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I did go back into your coaching tree, and I'm glad you mentioned Coleman there, and you got names like Leland Clifford,
Yeah,
and
Leland was at North. Yeah, and at Gateway Charter did a great job, and all those guys. Sean Smiley is the head coach in
yeah.
Division III up in New York. I mean, I've had a lot of just great coaches work for me.
One name that comes to mind for me that maybe some people don't know about this in Southwest Florida, but if you're a basketball fan or you're just been around, the Southwest Florida community for a long time, you actually coach with Scott Gutter. He coached under you. Is that correct?
Yeah, he coached under me 1 year, and then was our girls' coach, and is a close friend of mine. Like we,
Yeah.
fish all the time. We go hang out after our games all the time, talk all the time. Like this is somebody, very, very close to me to this day.
Yeah.
Like my kids have grown up where it's like, family basically, with not just him, but his brother Todd and sister-in-law Angela, and his dad Ed. We've just grown up all together with them, and still he's a really close friend of mine.
What was it like coaching with him? Were you kind of like a mentor to him, basically?
I don't know if I was a mentor. He's with me 1 year, and I was still pretty young then too, and we were just kind of
Yeah.
getting stuff going. But I'd hope he learned some things.
Yeah.
But that was a really, really special time still to look back on, because we had so many of us together at the time working together that now have branched out. And at that time, like you talked about the coaching tree, or whatever you want to call it, a lot of us were there at once. Like he was there the same time as Garrett and Dino and Beretta, and that was really a neat time.
So a notable name, you know this name very well, and Verot family knows his name. Ricky Doyle. What was it like coaching a player like Ricky from like start to finish? Like just
Well,
see.
Rick, yeah, he started working out with us in 7th grade. Now, of course, Richard Lanka I know really well, and started working out with him all the time. And it's kind of funny, like I was telling somebody, that by the time he got done with his sophomore year of high school, he had offers from every Power 5 school except for North Carolina and Kansas, but everybody else
Yeah.
we had. I mean, everybody.
Yeah.
Virginia, Creighton, Michigan, Miami, all those teams that all won their leagues and all that. And he was a really special player. Now, with him, he got hurt, got a stress fracture in his foot
Yeah.
his junior year. And that year we could have won it. We had Mason, we had all those guys, and Rick was playing great. He got a stress fracture in City of Palms. And then he sat out until the playoffs. And with a weight bearing injury like that, he couldn't stay in shape, couldn't do much, couldn't even really shoot, couldn't put pressure on his foot, had to wear the boot. And when he came back, St. Andrews won it that year, and they beat us by 2 in the Elite Eight. And Ricky had like 6 points or something. He was just a shadow of himself because he'd been out for so long. But he was a great player. I mean, obviously, a player like that, like Reed was incredible. Mason was like all around incredible, filled the stat line like no other. But like with him, having a guy 6'9" that could do the things he could, big, strong, handle. He was, he's one of the most dominating players in the history of Southwest Florida for sure.
What?
And
So
then he
what?
got hurt in college
Yeah.
and never could stay healthy. But
Yeah, Michigan FGCU. Yeah, he had a tough time in college, but no discredit to him. His high school career was amazing. But
amazing.
how do you go through your progressions with a player like that, like from start to finish, like just seeing his growth, his development, just through the stages of
Well,
him?
like one thing with him that was different is you really knew what you were getting. His
Mhm.
dad had played pro in Europe, was 6'10", 6'11". His mom
Yeah.
was 5'11", and Rick could play from the time he was little, so you knew like, okay, this is going to be a 6'8", 6'10" kid who can play. So we really didn't do any AAU, any of that stuff, and people criticized that. But his freshman year was his best year at Michigan. It was like, then he got
Yeah.
hurt and he went down, but he had a great freshman year there. And he we just, I don't know how to phrase it in this way, but it's easier as a coach to get motivated when you know basically what
Yeah.
the guy's going to turn into. I wasn't guessing like, man, if this guy grows, he's going to be good. I'm like, this guy's going to be really, really good. And we put the time in. And also this Leo Miller, he's dead now. He's the all-time winningest coach in Massachusetts history. He was at Nauset. Then he was at FGCU as an assistant. He died now, but he was my assistant for 3 years. And he really, when in the early years, freshman and sophomore year, he'd meet Ricky at the gym every morning at like 6 a.m. and put in for an hour and a half workout, which was really good for me because by the time I teach 5 classes, have our
Yeah.
workouts, open gym after school. I didn't really feel like getting up at 5:15 every morning when I'm getting home at 9 at night. So Leo took on that. That really helped Rick too.
So maybe maybe you don't have to say a player's name, but what about a player that came into the organization, into the program, that maybe wasn't as talented as Ricky or didn't have the skill set, but just had the work ethic, like really put the effort in, and they just blossomed into a player like, man, this guy really helped us, grow as a team.
Well, Reed Baker's the ultimate like story.
Yeah.
Reed was a guy that was kind of like an and one guy in eighth grade in Naples. It was kind of like a legendary little character down there, but was, kind of like I said, at that time, kids now don't know what and one was, but he
No.
could dribble in all kinds of ways and do all these trick shots.
Yeah.
But, wasn't very big, not extremely athletic, but incredibly fine motor skill. And he went from a freshman year playing JV, sophomore year being a really good varsity player. He worked so incredibly hard that by his junior and senior year, he was head and shoulders above anybody in Southwest Florida. It was Mr. Basketball.
Wow.
As a senior, because you're only senior eligible, was News Press Player of the Year when it was all of Southwest Florida as a junior. And we had this guy, Sean Zadrovitz, who was not a very good player, but a great kid, super hard worker, like one of those guys that coach dreams of. Well, really, lunch, and then have him go rebound for him while he form shot the gym. And Reed blossom into, he'd get Zad rounded up at lunch, and Zad would go read. And that's you're back on.
Yeah, we lost you for a second. You there?
Yeah. You
okay.
This, don't you?
Yeah, I can just take a quick commercial break there. Yeah, so go back to what you were saying about Sean
Zadrovitz. Like I said, he was just a dude, big kid, not a real good player, but just a great kid, hard worker, great family. John Sherry's mom and dad, awesome people. And Reed would get him, I don't know if he'd buy him a burger or whatever at lunch, but he'd get Sean every day to go down. And Sean hardly ever played, but was just an ultimate team player. And he'd go down and just rebound for Reed at lunch every day for a half hour or 40 minutes while Reed just form shot. A lot of them just in close form shot, and Zad would rebound. And now, now a lot of kids aren't like that.
No.
They want to dribble 4 balls at once with a band around them while people throwing tennis balls at them, which does nothing. But but they don't want to just put in the time in solitude to be good.
No, I agree with that. So during your time at Verot, in your later years now, especially, you have 464.
You keep acting like I'm so old.
Coach,
I'm not about to coach yet.
No.
Your
time coaching.
On and take my dentures out after the game. Come on, bro.
No, your time coaching as a okay. Yeah. Not your age. No, I know. Do you think is there ever like maybe a time while you're on the court, excuse me, and you're like, I've done this. I have, this amount, and I've, we've done this so many times. But I know you're not really an I guy. You're more of a team guy, and basketball's a team sport. But is there any, chance in your mind or time where you're on the court, coach, and you're like, I'm ready to hang this up? Like, has that ever come about yet?
No, not really. Like, one thing with me, well, I'm the luckiest person. Not many people are like me, where I've only wanted to do one thing my whole life. Yeah. One thing. And every day I love Verot. I love the people. I love teaching health class. I loved running the pep rallies. I loved running the student section at games. And I love coaching the basketball team. And I like basketball, I would say, like, I could take it or leave it. As I have moderate interest. I love the guys. I love trying to win. I love trying to put the team together. I love the scouting reports. I love the bus trips, the hotels, the meals. Yeah. It's just all that stuff that is just, to me, is so fun. And, really for me, my life since I was probably 12 hasn't changed much. It's been bus rides and McDonald's or Subway, and basketball games are a different sport, and hotels and the guys, and I think that's my favorite thing is just, and that part never gets old, just hanging out with the guys.
Yeah,
trying to win and trying
yeah.
to work to get better and sacrificing, bonding, and the camaraderie. It's like, it makes me feel like luckiest cat in the world, man.
Oh no, I love that. So for one thing I did want to ask you, or just kind of put this out there. For players, right? Like for example, let's just say Ricky Doyle, for example. He had a great season, let's just say hypothetically, and a lot of basketball players, some of them work out in the summer and the off season, and some, do this and some do that. Some really don't perfect their craft. But do you think as a basketball player that's super important, because a lot of
Well,
guys
yeah,
really
yeah, you have
take
to,
that for granted?
well, I know, and like, you have to put in the time,
Yeah.
and especially for, this won't be popular, but I'll say it,
Yeah.
unless you're like, just an incredible talent,
Yeah.
you can play multiple sports. You need to try to be good at one and just play the other. And you'll see, like, oh, Nick Saban signs only 3-sport guys. Yeah, you're in Alabama.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a guy that wants to be a Division I football player and you're okay at basketball, you should go to all the football stuff and then just play basketball on the side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like basketball too. Unless you're just a really, really, really special athlete, you ought to be good at basketball. You need to like work a bunch on basketball, then also play track. If you
Yeah.
want to be really good at baseball, you need to focus on baseball and then on the side play basketball. But if you're gonna like try to work at all of them the same, unless you're
Yeah.
just a freakish talent, you're not going to be that good at any of them. And I
Yeah.
understand it. We have guys like, look at, I've had guys who are great basketball players, MLB players, and
T-Boy
in the
Ward.
offseason they focus on T-Boy. Okay, in the offseason they focus on baseball because that's what they're going to make the money in and do that. And they still play basketball. They're great teammates, work hard, all that. But in their free time in the summer, they focus on baseball, which, basketball the same way. Like if Ricky wanted to play something else, well, he needs to work on basketball in the summer. And when we're not doing basketball, work on your theater or whatever. He wasn't a theater, but whatever. But you're just not gonna, unless you're just like a once in a lifetime talent, it's gonna be hard to be good at everything.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And there's two players that always come to mind for me when I think of like athleticism and talent and just like an anomaly. One is LeBron James, of course, because he played high school basketball and he also was a Division I football athlete. But then you got guys like Steph Curry who just put their entire time and effort and everything they put into basketball. I mean, his dad was Del Curry, but he wasn't athletically gifted like LeBron. So those are the two guys that always come to mind for me when I think about guys put the time and the effort in.
Well, I think too, like AI.
Yeah.
Okay, Allen Iverson was Mr. Football and Mr. Basketball in Virginia,
Yeah.
as a little dude. But guys like that are rare. And like people will get into, I mean, I've been in this argument a million times, like Jordan and LeBron.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like
of course.
Jordan is a better player, but there's never been anybody other than maybe Shaq in his prime that could just impose their physical will.
Yeah.
And that's what like a LeBron is. I mean, if he gets leverage and gets downhill, there's not a human on the planet that can stop him. He's just too big, too strong, too fast, all that. Okay, but there aren't many dudes like that.
No.
Or like Shaq. You say, oh, Shaq, Tim Duncan, Bill Russell, that's one other era. But in his prime, like if he got it on the block, there's not anybody that could stop him. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody. Where like Jordan obviously was the best 12 to 17 foot pull up range shooter ever. I still think the best player ever. But nobody's ever been able to impose their will like LeBron. But like, so for high school kids, like to watch a LeBron workout, you're comparing things that are not the same.
Yeah, apples to oranges.
That's kind of like Steph, okay, or like Duncan Robinson, somebody like this. When you have guys that are able to work 6 hours a day shooting threes and can make 100 in a row, and you're some Joe Blow at Bishop Verot that is an average athlete, that's got to go to school all day and commute with his sister home and back. You can do all that step back stuff you see Steph do, or you see Duncan Robinson do, or whoever. It's not going to work. I mean, it's not going to be the same. You don't have that. You don't have that. Very few people do, or everybody be Steph, or everybody be Clay, everybody be Duncan, everybody be Nikola. or everybody be, take your pick.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that, because during my time when I was younger, I kind of took the different approach, and I mean, social media and like clips, they weren't as popular as they are now. And it's like, oh, well, I see Steph Curry, I can do that step back, or oh, well, I can, take that off the dribble there. And you're like, then you get in the game situation and you're yelling and you're like at us and you're like, no, you can't. And that's, but you don't realize that as a young player. But now these kids can actually see that's not going to work. You have to mold your game what you're comfortable with. You can't just go and sit there and watch Steph Curry and think you're going to be Steph Curry. Guys,
No,
now these kids
but
get
the
these
thing
in their
back
mind.
to it, it's such an interesting argument that social media
Yeah.
has done. Okay, you take Jordan at the dunk contest in '88 or whatever, when he leans sideways and dunks it. Nobody can emulate that on a 10-foot hoop. You could have your phone out and your TikTok until the cows come home. You ain't gonna do it.
No.
But you do the step, you do 200 step back, high arc threes, one of them's going to go in. And then you film that, you post it all over, and you feel like a success because you hit 1 out of 250 shots, but you post it, it looks like you're doing it consistently.
Yeah, no, and that's the narrative now. It's like, well, I want to be like Steph, or I want to be like this player, I want to be like that player. It's like now you got guys that are trying to model their game after Luka, as the ISO style basketball where I'm just going to take you, I'm going to slow the pace down. I mean, now guys are thinking that they can do that when there's 4 other guys on the court, and Luka Doncic has been successful since he was 16 doing that. It's a little bit different.
Well, and it's funny how kids pick and choose too. Now we're kind of going down this deal, but okay.
Yeah, I know.
Homer. Hey, bro, I'm a huge homer. I love the Heat. I love the Hurricanes. I love the Dolphins.
Yeah, of course.
I'm a huge homer. I get it. I'm, live an hour 45 from all those teams.
Right.
But like with Jimmy, I love D Wade, but Jimmy's my favorite Heat player ever. But when you read about him, 5 a.m. shows up 5 to 8 a.m. before practice, works on his own. How his eating habits, is that high school kids, they don't want to emulate that.
No,
they want to emulate the shot they see. They're never like, hey, I see Jimmy's getting up there at 4:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning, working 3 hours on his own before practice. His diet is super restricted. He does all this extra. Well, kids are like, well, I don't want to do that. They're like, but I want to do is I want to, make this play. Well, that play resulted from that lifestyle of just grinding and work and focus and leadership. And, I don't know.
I'm
so glad don't get that, but
no, they don't.
What Jimmy Buckets did this year, it's like,
it's hard. That's hard to emulate and hard to mask.
Nuggets are just too good. Joker's too dominant, but Jimmy, my guy.
But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had Mark Matthews on the podcast last episode, a name you know very well, and he was saying, he was saying that he was like, I would get up at 5 a.m. and most people wouldn't even no one else would be in the gym with me. I would have to ask the assistant trainer if I could get the keys. You don't get many kids like that. They want, like I was telling him,
it's hard. It's hard. It's hard like that. Yeah, it's hard to find kids like that. And another problem is a lot of kids are like that when they're young, but they can't drive. So it's hard to find parents like that.
Right. That are committed.
There. By the time they're older, like girls are fishing, or like down here, there's a million distractions.
The weather, the girls,
the
food,
boating, food. There's everything.
The whole nine. But I'm glad you brought up the Heat, because that's what I was going to ask you. During the playoffs, the Heat were so successful with their zone. Why don't you think it worked against the Nuggets? Just because maybe they were too good, or like what? Why don't you think it didn't work?
They're too good, and when you have 2 guys throwing triple doubles, there's just too much everything. It's too hard to isolate. It's too hard to pick and choose. It's too hard to pick your poison. And the Joker. Let's be honest. Nobody has ever filled the stat line like that guy.
No,
he's dropping 27 footers. Then you got Murray out there with him going for. Murray looks pedestrian, going 30, 12, and 10.
Right.
Because Joker's going 40, 20, 13. it's just like, how can I love Bam. I love, of course, like I said, Jimmy. I love those guys, but man, just their ball movement and the way they can shoot, they can spread the floor. And the mismatches when you got a guy like, Joker, who can sit at 28 and just drop them and then go down to the block and sit down on anybody who's small enough to guard him. Then you're seeding it to Murray, plus the rest of their guys. I mean, it's just, I think, I don't doubt Eric Spoelstra will see this. I think he's the most underrated coach in the history of basketball.
But it's hard. I agree.
They're just, Nuggets were too good. And I love the Heat, was rooting for the Heat, watched every game, pulling for the Heat. But the whole time I was just like, they're too good. Right now in that series in the final, just too good.
For me,
they're one seed against an 8 seed. I mean, that shows that.
Yeah, it showed. And I mean, maybe some people would disagree with this, but I think the undrafted players caught up to the Heat, the athleticism, the size, like you said, the spacing, and then the 2-man game with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic was one of the best I've seen in recent years. Just how dominant it was as a point guard in a big like that.
Both can shoot, both can pick and pop, both can post up. Both can kind of get off the dribble, both can pull up off a couple of bounces. I mean, it's too hard.
And
Jamal, I think again, like, the Heat got beat 4-1. What Spoelstra did with those guys, or Pat Riley, or whoever you want to say, Jimmy Butler, is still incredible. Like, I'm super proud of that team. I'm glad to wear my Heat stuff around town. I think it's incredible.
No, and I'm glad you mentioned that too. And I think a lot of people do tend to forget that Jamal Murray is a bigger guard. He's not a small. He's not a small guard. He's a big guard. Yeah, he's 6'4". He's on the bigger side. I mean, he's physical. He likes to take you off the post. He likes to put you in the post too. He gets you in uncomfortable situations. The last thing I did want to mention about him though too is he changed his game when he came back from his ACL injury, especially this postseason. Was his facilitating game. He was adding that to his already like spectacular shooting and his play style. He was averaging 9-10 assists throughout this postseason, and something you didn't expect from a guy like that. And it fed off Jokic too. So, but I'm glad we got a chance to talk about that. Your thoughts about the Heat and the Nuggets and the whole postseason. But who's your favorite NBA player to watch other than Jimmy Butler? Just like maybe on a nightly basis, or I really want to watch that guy, or just somebody I like to watch
that much, Joey. I don't watch that much because I'm so busy with basketball.
Yeah,
I usually don't watch till the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I like of course Joker and Luka. I like just how they play. I think it's so unique.
Yeah.
And I think with like a lot of bigger kids in America, they could pattern their style after that instead of, lining up and trying to pseudo dunk 80 times after practice, maybe working on a pick and pop 3 or, your handles or your passing. That, of course, I think Steph and Clay are so fun to watch just because how they can shoot it. And it's so simplified. And, like they'll wiggle a little, that kind of stuff, and just the catch and shoot with a quick release and good follow through. I think it's just like those two are so fun to watch. Trying to think of anybody else that really intrigues me a lot. Well, like I hate to say this as a coach, but like I like watching Trae Young. I think he's funny, little skinny kind of dude with a little mustache and goatee. He does a cold thing and hits him. And goes for a bunch. Now he's kind of a guy too that's more of a highlight reel guy than a.
Yeah, he is.
Like drag your team to the finals, but I still like watching him.
It's so funny you mentioned that because for me, Trae Young, he's just like the way he plays. It's not like, fundamental. Like for coaches, they probably drive themselves crazy watching him. Quinn Snyder is watching him. He's jacking up so many shots. But the next thing I did want to mention is Steph Curry and Clay, how you said like they're catch and shoot and they're just their release point. What makes it so fun for them is their ability to move without the basketball. They're always running. They're always running around screens, and it's so fun to watch them. And that's why.
What I think is so fun to watch as a coach is how little they dribble.
Yeah.
My God, everything now is bounce, 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 bounce. Drag the ball straight, hit the guy in the pop, bounce, bounce.
Right.
And those guys were like Clay's going for 50 and dribbling it like 6 times in the game.
Yeah.
That's something more kids need to emulate, or more players in general. Yeah. And like what Trae reminds me of, Trae Young, he does remind me of AI just because his stature. And I loved AI growing up as a kid, played his heart out, leave everything out there, but was just a little guy getting just bounced around by big dudes. And Trae's kind of like that. Yeah. He doesn't have the same persona. He's a lot less, charismatic and, all that sort of stuff. But he's a little guy out there that's like causing a bunch of problems. And it's to me, it's really fun to watch.
The last point about Curry and Clay is De'Aaron Fox, when the Kings and the Warriors were playing and they went 7 games and Curry had that unbelievable performance. Actually, throughout the series, De'Aaron Fox was saying he was like, it's so hard to guard Curry. People don't realize, but it's not just guarding him. It's him without the ball. You're chasing him around screens. You're chasing him
Yeah.
under and over. He's like, it's so hard to guard this guy. And you're like, how is he in this good a shape at his age? And he's like, he's wearing me out. So it's just, I think that's a good thing people can take away from the game. That aspect of Curry, his ability to move without the basketball, his ability to play without the basketball. So I like that one a lot, though. So for next part of the show is I wanted to ask you about Hoop School. So where did that all come about? I know it's been around for a long time. I participated in Hoop School. So where did it all come about?
I had the idea when I was in South Texas, and I didn't really have it as a little kids camp. It was more then you couldn't coach your own players in the summer. So I
Yeah.
had the idea where a bunch of us friends would coach each other's teams. We'd meet with the coach. What do
Mm-hmm.
you want us to work on? And we'd coach them. And then I moved and I just started a little kids camp, and there really wasn't much. And I built it to the largest youth sports camp in Southwest Florida. I'm in there right now. I got 100
Yeah.
kids this week. The
Wow.
little guys run around. It's fun. I love what I love about Fort Myers. I feel super, immersed in the community and what Fort Myers is, and like most of the people like you or kids that play for me or that I
Yeah.
know from around town that play. I've known them since they were 5 or 6. They used to come to Hoop School, so it's just a new group every year, a new group of family, a new group of kids. It's just the energy in those little guys is just it's a blast being around them, little girls. Being around them and watching them play and have so much excitement over the game, and you're just playing knockout, or we get a last second shot and everybody rushes the court and goes chance MVP. It's I think innocence and so many things now are so oriented toward you're 5 years old and you win and you get a ring, or they've been to a social media shoot. I think so much is lost, just the fun of playing just for fun. I think that's one thing kids play there, and it's just for fun, and they
Yeah.
like it. And they cry when they lose, and they go crazy and jump around and chant MVP when they win, and nobody gets the ring or nobody gets
Yeah.
a jersey with their name on the back. Just doing it because it's fun, which is more things should be like that. Just you do it because it's fun.
I have a funny Hoop School story. When I was younger, you actually brought the Dunk City guys there. You brought Eddie Murray and Brett Comer, and everyone was going insane. I mean, that was
Yeah.
probably the most memorable Hoop School moment, or I have like till this day. And
Oh
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
just
That was right
was
after
awesome.
2016. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yep.
were going crazy. They were throwing lobs and dunks, and guys were
Yeah, and
jumping
Brett's at
over. I was like,
Stetson
wow.
now. Brett's at
Yeah.
Stetson now. I see him around once in a while, like the Final Four, around a little bit. Great guy. We played against him when he was in high school. Played against those Winter Park teams with him, of course Austin and
Austin Rivers. Yeah.
Adam Jones, all those guys, and and Eddie, of course, lives right here in Whiskey Creek by me, and
Wow.
catch up with him for hang out a little bit with him and Meredith. They're expecting a child soon, so it's
Woo.
exciting.
That's awesome. So I did want to ask you, this has just been on my mind for a while, even like till this day. Who is the most unique or hardest player that you ever coached against where you just like couldn't game plan for this guy, or just somebody that you're just
Well, I
like,
mean,
damn.
there have been a lot. I've coached against of course, Austin Rivers and
Yeah.
Brendan Knight. I've coached against John Henson. Coached against, all kinds of guys who are incredible. From Tampa Catholic, he played for the Knicks. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. He had the big posterized dunk. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, and we
Yes.
played against so many. Like for me, it seems bad. I can't remember. God, what was that? Can't believe Kevin Knox.
Kevin Knox,
Anyway,
that's who it was. Yeah, he had the
yeah.
big
Anyway,
posterizing
we
dunk.
played
Yep.
against so many. You name them, we've played against them, and so it's hard to remember a lot of those. A lot of those games, to be honest. The one thing I like about the Austin Rivers and the Brendan Knight games is we were competitive. We've had a lot of other games where we played against those NBA guys, and it's like, the guy played 20 minutes of the game and had 30 points, then sat out because we were getting,
Yeah.
crushed by him.
So yeah, playing against Kevin Knox, that was an interesting one.
John Henson, yeah, or
Yeah.
like I said, Austin Rivers is just really unique to play against because like the whole aura around him by that time,
Yeah.
the whole with Doc being at the games, all that was kind of like a really neat vibe, So
And in maybe in person, maybe not as a coaching standpoint, who is the most unique player you've ever seen play like in person from just watching as a standpoint, but still like having the coaching like cap on in your mind?
It's a really good question, Joey. Somebody who's really interesting like that. Well, Kevin Knox was really good because it was the guy. All this, Dave Tellup's a great friend of mine. He's the assistant GM for the Spurs and all that. We always talk about this. When you know, you know. And
Yeah.
like Kevin Knox, first time we played against him, I'm like, the guy's a lottery pick. I mean, what do you want?
Yeah.
6'8", shoots a three, gets his head on the rim, handles it. And the kid from St. Andrew, Josh, went to Memphis. We played him in an all-star game. I'm like, this is a lottery pick. But he's like, oh, he's a 3-star. I said, you watch. What, 8th in the draft or 7th in the draft. So a lot of those guys are like really unique and hard to play against. And, it's all different. A lot of it depends on who you have.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys who were really highly rated, we had good matchups. A lot of guys who were not as good rated, we had hard matchups. And it's just how it goes.
Well, I know.
But I guess you want me to
yeah.
name drop. I really don't have anybody.
It'd be like Kevin Knox. Yeah, I know. I mean, he was sensational in high school, like you said, lottery pick. He had that 1 year at Kentucky. He went to Kentucky. Yeah, he had that 1 year at Kentucky. He hasn't really had the greatest NBA career. Hasn't really panned out. But yeah, no, that's definitely.
But at the high school level, he's really a problem. Really hard to deal with.
Well, I know, throughout your time at Verot and even when I was there, you've always, been all about, defense and hard work and, gritty. So when you watch a guy like Draymond Green, is that like a guy you just love to, watch and how he stands for his game?
I laugh because some of my coaching friends are like, Draymond Green, 20 rebounds, 8 assists, takes 5 charges. I'd take that guy any day of the week. Yeah, anybody would take that guy. Right? Yeah. Anybody.
Right.
And one thing I have learned at Verot, like those guys like that, like Draymond, are awesome. But at some point, you need some white collar labor. You need a Steph. You need a Clay.
Yeah.
You can dive on the floor and take all the charges you want. The bottom end of the day, if you're scoring 35, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love a guy like Draymond. That's like reminds you of like a Verot guy.
Yes.
All that. But we also need like like a guy like Steph out there dropping 40 to help out the cause.
No, most definitely. So last part about basketball, this triangle offense is still in play, right? Do you still run that?
Yeah. A lot of people use it. A lot of people all over the country use it still.
Yeah.
I invented that and did that. Same with the old jump out of bounds, sub play, and all that.
Yeah.
Now it's funny because it's 20 years later. Everybody's like, no way, that's not you guys. I'm like, yeah, I came up with all that. That's kind of how I got my name out there. Spoke around a lot, talked to a bunch of conventions about it.
Yeah, you still, I mean, people like you said still run that offense till this day.
Well, yeah, and it's trickled up. Instead of trickled down. A lot of like NBA and college guys use that stuff. I'm like, yeah, we made that stuff up. People are like, no, like, I don't care. They can think what they want. I know the truth.
So moving on to your music career, I know maybe.
Oh, here we go. Now we're talking.
Yeah. I got you pumped now. So
I talk about basketball all the time. Let's talk about.
I know. Yeah, Matty Roberts. Where did the Matty Roberts name come from?
Well, okay, I always liked music growing up, but I have no musical talent. Which, if you've heard the album, you probably realized.
I don't think it's too bad.
I majored in English in my undergrad. So I've always been a writer. And if I could be anything other than the basketball coach, I'd be a novelist. Like that would be my dream. All that. I love all that kind of creative stuff like that. I can't fix nothing. You can have jump cuts. I can't fix nothing. I can't build nothing. I can't like do anything to my car, but I can like draw and paint and write stories and poems and prayers. I'm really good at anything creative. Yeah. And 23 years ago, when I moved here, I met this guy. There used to be this bar downtown kind of called Shooters on the River. All the old Fort Myers people would know. This guy was there playing my first year, playing a bunch of songs, and I just moved from Texas. I fell in love in Texas. It's kind of a long story, Joey, but you want it or not?
I want it. Yeah, go ahead.
So I meet this guy, and he's a legendary tennis coach in Texas. He doesn't like me too much at first, but then he invites me over, a bunch of other coaches. And he's like, tells his wife, Alice, get my guitar out. He was drinking some wine, this and that. And in Texas, we call it banging them out. And it's like chang, chang, chang. And I was embarrassed for the dude. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's terrible. But everybody's singing along. Well, the second time, I'm like, this is kind of fun. By the third time, I'm like, if he can do this, I can do this. So I get a guitar, but I'm in Texas and I don't ever learn to play it. I'm coaching, doing all that. Well, then I moved to Fort Myers after 7.5 years down there. My kids are little, Allie, who's your age, is like 3 months, 4 months. Anyway, and I get home at like 9, everybody's in bed, so I don't watch TV. So I was homesick for Texas. So I got this guitar out and I'm like, I'm gonna teach myself a few chords. And I got right to learn a few chords. Okay, I'm teaching myself a couple songs. So I started messing around. Well, I meet this guy and I'm like, you're playing all the wrong songs. You got to play this, got to play that. He's a really talented player, but he wasn't that creative. So I would just started writing these songs and we'd go out to his house and our kids were the same age. So our wives and kids, my ex-wife and his wife and kids, they were little kids. They'd be swimming and fooling around the pool. Me and him, he had a little recording studio at his house in Cape Coral. We started recording all these tracks. Well, then I lost the CD. I'm like, God, I wrote this CD that had a bunch of good songs on it. I couldn't find it. And about 3 years ago, I was cleaning my house and I found the CD. So I listened to it. I'm like, I'm going to drop an album. I didn't want to use Matt Herting. And my middle name is Robert. Yes. So I went Matty Roberts, but that was some guy that during the pandemic stormed Area 51 because he thought aliens were there. So I put two B's in the Roberts so it didn't match up, and dropped my album and sold a bunch of merch at Verot. And ever since, hey, people can laugh and say all the stuff they want, but guess what, bro? How many people drop an album?
Not many,
bro. Not many.
No.
I dropped an album.
So there's 8 songs on the album. Do you happen to have a favorite song?
Well, there were 10. I'd take a couple down because people thought they were offensive. And I don't think I'm the first person to write a song about, beer and pickup trucks, but some people thought that was offensive. So I had to take a couple down, but I still think it's good. It kind of stands up. Like a lot of people are surprised at the lyrics. Obviously I don't sing very good. I play okay. I play everything on there other than the harmonica and piano that my friend Chris Lincoln did. But play all the guitar and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's something cool to do.
Yeah.
Not many people can say they dropped an album, bro.
No, they can't. Who took the photo of the album cover?
I did.
Wow.
Took it right out in my front yard, 4-pack and an F-150.
Oh, you basically did. You were the brains all behind it then.
I was. Yeah, I was the creative force behind the whole movement.
How long did this album take to make, and how long did it take to come into play?
Well, I made it probably 22 years before I released it because I lost the CD.
Oh yeah,
and then it was just kind of fun. He, like my friend Chris, who is he plays me and sings me under the table. But I'm a pretty good writer, and I'd written these songs, and he liked messing around in the producing side. So he messed around and produced it and did all that kind of stuff. And and we just recorded them sitting around. We were like, basically it was fun for us because our kids and wives would be out back while they were eating hot dogs and swimming and screaming. And then we'd play some songs. I'd write some songs and we'd mix them and play them. And it was fun. Like I said, I lost it and I found it a few years ago, right after the pandemic. And I was just like, I'm going to release this sucker. Because now it's easy. I don't have to go sell it to a record label, just upload it, So I did it. And it was like, it was good.
Yeah. So the Fortfest part. So I see that a lot on Instagram and it's doing really well. You're a part of Fortfest. How did that all come about?
I'm a visionary. I'm a guy that sees stuff, and I've always thought I'd like to do something cool, just celebrate. I love Fort Myers, man. I love it. I know you're a Cape. Of course. Guy. I know you're a Cape guy. I'm a Fort guy through and through, and I like the Cape too. But anyway, I was like, I want to do something cool for the community, bring something family oriented, all that.
Yeah.
And Peyton Heben, who's now with Raised Rowdy Music in Nashville, who played for me. We were talking. He's like, yeah, I think we should do this and that. And Kyle Riemenschneider, who plays the basketball at FGCU, was with me and was like, hey, he's a graphic artist. And Alex Quattrone, who, was in LA at US, out there at like film school. And does like website design. So I partnered with all them. Jess Cole, that was at Bro, she was like our bookkeeper, and decided, hey, let's do this music festival. and to help the community. And we've done it 2 years. It's been really good. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Big learning curve, but it's been really good.
Yeah, you've gotten some cool artists there. I know, Carter Smith and some other cool artists.
Carter,
so
love Carter. Yeah, Carter. When I get engaged, I flew Carter down for my engagement party. Played my backyard, so that was neat.
Really?
Yeah,
that's awesome. So always for my guests.
Joey,
go ahead.
Edit this right?
Yeah.
Can I take a bathroom break for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll just pause it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Fortfest, Carter Smith, names like that. How do you guys get all like the artists to come about? Does like Peyton Heben and you guys like come together to network these guys basically?
Peyton comes up with prices, then we pay them. You know how that goes.
Oh, yeah.
Capitalism.
Yeah.
Hayden Kaufman's awesome. He did us a big favor, played cheap this year. Kaylee Bishop, went to Fort Myers High, was on The Voice, her. And then, Carter did last year, came down and played my well, he's a great guy, and I won. Yeah. His music is probably my favorite of everybody's. He came down and played my engagement party here.
Mm-hmm.
Flew down from Nashville for nothing and played it. What a great dude! And then Drew Parker, of course, co-wrote Song of the Year with Luke Combs this year. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of stress, a lot of work. But yeah, for me, I like doing stuff other than just basketball. I think it keeps my mind fresh and keeps me more connected to the community. And this year we brought on Susan France, who has France marketing, and she did a lot of good things for us. So hopefully next year, we can keep growing it.
Most definitely. So there's going to be one next year. Do you guys have a date yet or no?
We don't have a date yet. Alliance of the Arts, where we have it. So I wanted something in Fort Myers, not like out at Six Bends or something on the interstate, which that's a great place. I'm not saying but I wanted something, to celebrate Fort Myers in Fort Myers.
Yeah.
And so we got to get with them. They just turned over new management, so pick a date.
So always for my guests to end the show, I always like to ask them 5 questions, and I'm sure
you got it, brother.
You saw these questions, but you're ready to answer these. So, would you ever make another?
I didn't look at them, but I'll look. I'm not good at reading emails, bro.
That's okay. I told you I was going to send it to you. So
got my Diet Pepsi right
here. Would you ever make another album?
I'd like to. I've tried writing some more songs. Got a couple great ideas. I mess around with it. I've just been so busy lately. Like me, if I'm going to the Final Four, a lot of us play at the Final Four at the NABC National Convention. Yeah. So I'll play a bunch before that. Or if I'm going to South Dakota in the summer, I'll play a bunch before that because I'll play up there. Or if I'm having a party at my house, I'll play a bunch. But it really kind of ebbs and flows where I'll play a bunch for a month and not much for 2 months. And right now, I probably got about 4 or 5 songs I like that need to be refined a little, all that. But I would like to release another one. But when I find the time, maybe next year.
The return of Matty Roberts.
The return of Matty Roberts. 4-pack and F-150. Maybe this will be like a 1-pack and a Dodge Ram. I just bought a new Dodge Ram.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. That's awesome.
But you got to admit, the album cover looks pretty clutch, right?
I like it. I mean, I like it. It's old school.
With the guitar against there, the 4-pack, highlights up there, the truck. That looks good. Ford F-150.
I like it. So, number 2, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Whew. I'm a guy, a lot of stuff gets on my nerves. A lot. I'm going to say, Joey, my biggest pet peeves. Okay, let's go to the others and I'll come back to that one.
All right. Fair.
That one I could go on forever. I need to pick a good one.
You've got to pick a good one. What movie can you watch over and over again without getting tired of it?
Oh, this shows my age though, but The Breakfast Club.
Oh, that's a great movie. That's a classic.
Great movie. When I was a kid, I fell in love with it. I still think it resonates with people and the themes and the great quotes. That and Caddyshack I've probably seen 1 million times each. And like Caddyshack, I cannot go golf without 17 times a hole throwing a Caddyshack quote out at my friends. And luckily they're the same way, so they don't get mad. But those two I could watch forever.
I mean, Breakfast Club's the classic. This may be kind of cheesy, but Don't You Forget About Me. You're like ready to go. You are
with you, bro. I'm like, bro, I'm like, oh.
You can't.
Then you kind of go through stages in life. You think you're like Bender, or you think you're like, Andrew Clark. It's like, that's a great film.
Molly Ringwald's in that too, isn't she?
Yeah. She's
Yeah,
Claire.
that's a classic there. No, you can't tell me though you haven't one time in your life, windows rolled down, don't you forget about me, driving somewhere. You've definitely done that.
Oh yeah.
Listening.
My favorite hobby is just driving around my neighborhood in my truck listening to music. So I do that. That's like 2 hours a day, and yeah, I love doing that. That's such a great song, and
Oh, it
there's some other
is.
great songs in there too. Oh,
Yeah, no,
that's such a clutch movie
that's a classic. That's a classic. So, what are you interested in most people, or what's something you're interested in that most people aren't?
that most people aren't. A lot of things. I don't, I'm not into sports that much in my free time.
Yeah.
You know what gyutaku is?
No.
Well, before they had cameras in Japan, people are going to think I'm lying, but I can show you pictures. Before they had cameras, and fishermen in Japan, like
Yeah.
200, 300 years ago, when they catch their fish, they'd wash them down before they cleaned them, and then paint them and press them with rice paper. Well, now it's an art form. So I like to catch different fish and scrub them down and paint them and then press them with rice paper. And I got a lot of the prints hanging up in my house. At Pickin' Boots in Fort Myers, I got my clothing line, Fort Life, but also got my gyutaku art there. I like that a lot. I'm trying to think of something else nobody else really likes. The Manson family. I'm an expert on the Manson family. I got
Oh,
into that when I was in
jeez.
high school. I've written like every term paper for about 8 years when I was in high school and college. It was about something to do with the Manson family, and I'm still kind of intrigued with that whole scene. Those are some kind of different things people might not know about.
Polar opposites, Gyotacos and the Manson family. Gyutaku. Number 5, what is something that you really resent paying for?
Oh my God. You're talking about a dude that ain't good with money management. I buy
Uh-oh.
all kinds of dumb stuff. I live in the subtropics. I got 2 $500 fur coats that I wear all the time. And people think it's a waste of money, but anybody like in New York City when it's 10 degrees out can roll up in a full length fur. When I roll up in DTFM and it's 85 out in July and I'm rocking the full length fur, it's legit clutch. Like people are like, that is pretty cool.
Oh,
So
that's funny.
I don't resent that, but I bought some dumb stuff in my day. I'm not real good at the whole saving up and money management. I'm more like thinking about what I think is cool right now. So that would be a tough question for me because man, I blow cash like it's my hobby.
Going back to it, what is your biggest pet peeve?
I'll give you a few. People that eat with their mouth open.
Oof.
Here's another one. Moms that refer to their kid who's like 35 years old by some cheesy nickname like they're a little kid on Facebook. It'll be like, let's say your mom, Big Kelly, gets on there. It's like, Joe turns 35 today, my little guy. Miss you, Joe. Why are we saying Joe? Joey's 35 years old with 2 kids and master's degree. Why are we calling him Joe? But you get a bunch of those Facebook moms do that. And I don't know why, but that irritates the crap out of me. I'm just like, oh my God, what are you doing there? Your kid's 40 and you're referring to him as, Fifi.
Yeah.
It's like, my name's Phoebe. Just let's quit doing this, but you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I completely
That
get
is
where you're coming from.
super annoying. That's like my least favorite thing ever. And I hate a lot of things that people do that get on my nerves.
That's an interesting pet peeve because you would think it, like you said, I mean, chewing with your mouth open or somebody like, biting their nails and they're putting the fingernails on the coffee table.
No, people do that stuff. And it's so annoying. It's like, why are we calling Zach Zachy when he's 45 with a grandkid? You know what I mean? It's like, geez, Louisa. It's annoying.
All right. Before we end the show, is there anything you would like to leave for the listeners or people watching? Like something maybe you could just leave as an imprint for people, or just something doesn't have to be basketball related, or just something that you're just like, man, I really want to get this off my chest.
I do. I have something. And I don't think it's that offensive. People always talk about death. I'm 54, think about dying. And I was telling somebody this the other day. I've thought about like when I die, what do I want? You know what I want to happen? I want to die like in a bar fight with Ray Lewis. or getting gored by a bull in San Fermin, running with the bulls, or taking a bullet for Jill or Allie. You know, I don't want to die peacefully at
Jeez.
home, surrounded by loved ones.
Oh
To
my
me, that
gosh.
is not a way to go out. I want to go out in a way where people are like, "Woo, bro, Herting, you went out with a bang, dude." So something like that. So I just wanted to. Everybody has their own way. Like I said, me, bar fight with Ray Lewis, gored by a bull at San Fermin, taking a bullet for Allie or Jill, something like that would be good. Not now, not now.
Right,
As I
right,
get
right, right. Yeah,
older,
yeah, yeah.
I
Not
think
now, not
everybody
now.
die, not hooked to a bunch of machines like, where I don't know anything.
Right.
So anyway, I'll send that. So everybody out there, that's like the kid, Matt Herting. So I want to go out somewhere like that. I don't want to go out like with a whimper.
It's so funny you say that, because in the beginning of the show you were getting on me for saying that you were like, you're old and you're old to this.
Yeah, no, bro, no way, man.
I'm talking about basketball, and you're like, you're thinking I'm here with like
yeah,
these like
or like I'm gonna
cane
die
and
like trying to
glasses.
big wave surf, you know, an 80-foot wave in Hawaii somewhere and get pummeled, or right,
Right.
get attacked by a grizzly bear and we both kill each other, something like that. I don't want to die like hooked to machines where it's just beep beep.
Or maybe
No way.
they reenact one of the wars and you're one of the soldiers, or
Yeah,
you know, something like that.
Or like I save a ton of people, and then they start having like all the schools in America start having Herting as their mascot. It's like this dude out there, statue in front. We're the Fighting Hertings. Ah!
Matty
Yeah.
Matty
I
Roberts.
don't want to die like on, you know, hooked to some machine where everybody waits around for 3 days while the beat goes slowly.
The last thing I will say, my most memorable moment of you is not your basketball times, not you yelling at us or making us do wind sprints or chairs or the funny bus memories. It's your time when we did Spellamania and you came in as Princess Purple Rain in the motorcycle.
On the Harley.
Yeah.
500 purple balloon drop.
Yeah.
That was legit, bro. That was like clutch, real clutch.
No, that was legit.
And I still watch, every time I'm bored, I watch it and think, man, I look cool.
Yeah. So, well, Coach, it was a pleasure to have you on.
Oh,
as
my
always.
pleasure, Joey. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Plug your stuff, Matty Roberts, the Fort Life. Plug it all before we end up for the show.
Yeah, you go to fort-life.com. We got a clothing line for people that love Fort Myers. We got fort-fest.com. You can check up on the concert next year if you want to be a sponsor or even show up. The Matty Roberts album you can get on SoundCloud or any of that sort of stuff. And of course, Verot Hoops, man, Hoopschool. See ya. And also, shout out to this guy, Joey. Proud of you, man. You've really done a good job with this.
Thanks, Coach. I really appreciate it. And as always, guys, you know where to find us on Spotify, the Inquisitive Mamba podcast. Thanks to the man himself who's on the show today. And Apple Podcasts, the Inquisitive Mamba podcast. We are almost at 1,100 plays collectively for YouTube and YouTube Shorts. We've hit over a couple 100,000 views. So as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.